Morning. How you doing? How are you doing? If you're anything like me, guys, you're an emotional wreck. Last night was too much for me. Last night was too much. Every emotion that I think that is in me came out in volume over that, 2 hours of time I spent on the Irish Hotspur with Dave and Jack. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Sean Butler. This is Bugsy Malone, my partner in crime. We are the Spurs Talk Show. This is episode 79, maybe 80 of Tottenham Walks. And it's the day after game day. It's the day after the night before. Guys, I don't know where to start. You know what? Where I'm going to start is I want to apologise to anyone who watched the Irish Hotspur last night and was offended by my likely overuse of profanity. I think I dropped F-bombs and other bombs in a frequency that I'm not particularly happy with. So apologies if it wasn't for your taste. I couldn't hold it back, I guess, on the half-time whistle. I just thought we were so bad against a team that is so bad. An unnecessarily deep defensive performance in the first half that once again gets punished. And then we have to go through the whole rigmarole of throwing everything at it in the second half. But we got it done. So we're going to talk about that now. Guys, if you wouldn't mind doing me a favour before we get going, and that is smash the like button, the subscribe button, and the notification bell. I really appreciate it. It sends it out to the algorithm and pushes the content out to more people that may or may not enjoy the content. Also, if you don't mind dropping a comment, let me know what your thoughts were. I'm sure everyone has got some sort of take on what happened last night. Are you happy? Are you super happy? Are you willing to gloss over the issues? Because at the end of the day, winning is winning and that's all that counts. I'm not really, if I'm entirely honest. I'm delighted we got through, don't get me wrong. I'm delighted that, if you look at the bigger picture, we're third in the group, or third in the league. With only a couple of games to go until the World Cup, and most people would have taken that, I think, at the start of the season, given the way the Premier League fixture list shaped up. We qualified top, and in so doing, we avoid some of the major teams that we didn't want to get in the last 16, and we're still going to have to play a very tough team in the last 16 in February, whoever that is. And if we play the way we played in the first half, then against one of those teams, I think we'll be, walked off the pitch. But at the end of the day, we did it, right? We did it. So reasons to be really cheerful. Once again, Tottenham's never say die attitude. They fight until the last minute. How many late goals have we scored where they've been allowed or disallowed recently? But at the same time, this recycling of the same bloody philosophy, which the more I read and see people saying, apparently, I don't remember this, but apparently people like Skippy and Harry Kane and Conte have all acknowledged that the fitness levels required to play 90-minute football of the highest intensity every 3 days is something that Tottenham players don't have. Apologies about the wind, I'm going to have to try and muffle it later. It's something that Tottenham don't have, and consequently they have to kind of play in shifts. They have to have that kind of moments where they push and moments where they don't. And whilst I can understand it, more so because of the injuries we have and the inability to rotate as much as other teams can who have got deeper squads. I feel like the benefits don't outweigh the costs when you do it the way round we're doing it. I'd much rather go at them in the first half and then protect something positive rather than chase something back negative that we currently do. Because how many games now have we tried to sit back but end up conceding a goal either in the first half or at the start of the second half, or sometimes both, before we then have to get back on and try and chase it down. And look, when we do chase it down, we're usually pretty pretty successful with it. We did it against Bournemouth. We did it last night. We almost did it against Sporting with a goal that was disallowed. We weren't far away from doing it at Newcastle. I think that if the Newcastle game had had the amount of injury time that it should have had, given the time wasting that was going on from Newcastle, then I think that we were knocking on the door late in that game to get the equaliser. And there's a few other games where we ran out of time. So I love the fact that we had the mentality that we're never out of the game and we chase and we get something out of the game more often than we don't. But I just don't think it's always necessary. I understand it against the best teams. I would understand it if that was what was happening against Barcelona or Manchester City or even Arsenal. I understand it a little bit because they're a good team, but I don't think we need to do that against teams like Marseille when we make them look like they're prime Barca, but they're rubbish. They were rubbish. It is what it is. I'm sure it will continue for a while. I think it's because, the team's injuries and the confidence that the defence has in and of themselves with the wing-back system, with more experimentation last night, which was a little bit silly to me, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. But I think overall the system that we play, if it is about conserving energy, I don't understand why we can't start hard and then drop. I'd much rather see us do that. Well, I'd rather see us not do either. I'd rather see us just play for 90 minutes. But I guess beggars can't be choosers. Look, in terms of the game last night, we started with a 3-4-3. We shifted very early to a 3-5-2 because of the injury to Sonny, and let's hope that he's okay. And my God, how we need him for Liverpool, because if we don't have him, Kulusevski or Richarlison, and I don't think Brian Hill's ready to start a game, then we're limited to playing 3-5-2 with Lucas Moura and Harry Kane as our only really recognised, available options up front. It's crazy how many of our big name players are now all in the same position, all seem to be injured at the same time. It's bad luck, but it is what it is. You've got to roll with the punches and get on with it. Anyway, we moved to a 3-5-2. I don't think it particularly helped us in the first half. But in the second half, I did think that Bissouma's presence in the midfield gave us a little bit more stability. Where my focus of attention is in terms of whether I agreed with the strategy or not is in the experimentation with the wing-backs. I said before in the preview show yesterday that I think Perisic was an absolute necessity because he has got all the experience in the world and calm heads in pressure cooker environments, which playing away in Marseille, even if they have one stand down, the noise from those fans yesterday was quite intimidating for sure. And I specifically said I didn't want Sessegnon in the team on the left because I think the opposite of him. I think whilst I like him as a player, occasionally I think he can do good things. He looks like a guy who is scared of his own shadow sometimes. And that's even when he's playing at home in front of home fans. So I didn't really want to see him on the pitch. And look, it didn't work. Playing him on the right and the left, because they inverted the two of them at one point. He was just out of his depth and was bullied all too often. And like I say, just looked like the occasion was too much for him. Now, in the preview show, I initially said, I think I want Doherty in front of Emerson. But actually, as the day went on, I then corrected myself. And I think it was on the We Are Tottenham TV pump-up show. I said, no, I want Emerson instead of Doherty on the right. Because I actually think also you could make the same kind of argument about looking scared for Doherty in games. Doesn't know whether he wants to be forward or back. He's not really sure what he's doing. And you can see sometimes he looks a little bit intimidated or afraid of making the wrong decision. So ends up making the wrong decision by default. But we didn't do that. We went with both of them, Perisic and Sessegnon, It didn't work with Cess, hooked him at half-time, brought on Emerson. And listen, whilst we won't know what performance Emerson would have put in the first half when we were under the cosh, in the second half, I thought he was really good. I thought he was very good aerially, defensively. I think he's the best header of the ball that we've got in our team, to be honest. And I think he was calm. He was a calming presence, I think. For some reason, God knows why, but I thought his presence in the second half really helped. Shout out to him. Bissouma sitting in that controlling role, that 6, allowed Bentancur and Højbjerg to do their thing, and they got forward well. Look, Sonny again had not Sonny. I thought Lucas Moura had a really bad game, both when he was out wide in the first 25, 30 minutes before Sonny went off, and then afterwards when he played centrally. I thought he was really poor. Decision-making, final ball, everything was disappointing, and I was really disappointed. I actually had a bet on Tottenham to win 2-1 with Lucas Moura to score, because I had this feeling that he was going to step up and we were going to see the Ajax version of him. Come of the hour, come of the man, big European night. Didn't happen. Didn't happen at all. The goals that we needed to get the victory came from, one very unlikely source in Clement Longley, who, got so high in that jump, it was incredible. I didn't even have him down as a very good header of the ball, but look, well played for him. Brilliant. Another free kick from Perisic. Another assist for the man. Say what you want about him defensively. Say what you want about him even going forward. Sometimes he looks like an old man running in quicksand. But from set pieces, his ability to put the ball where it needs to be, when it needs to be there, is second to none. I don't think there's another wing-back in the Premier League that's got as many assists as he has this season. I'd be surprised if there were. And so you have to kind of take the bitter with the better with him, I think. Appreciate him for what he's good for, and that it only takes a moment of magic and a game can change, and that's generally what Tottenham need more often. Come on, Bugs, we're going this way. More often than not at the moment. Look, there was more experimentation at the back. I was thinking about this, like maybe the reason why it didn't work so well is because they decided to go with Davies, Longley in the middle and Dyer on the right. And the only time we've seen that formation being used, but I'm going to hold my hands up and say I was for it. I was all about it. Rather than seeing Sanchez, if those were the two options, I was more inclined to see it. But the reason why most people who felt the way I did were up for it was because we saw Dyer going forward and linking up well with Sessegnon in the second half against Bournemouth. And maybe that's also the reason why they played Sessegnon on the right-hand side instead of Doherty or Emerson. But for me, we didn't see those three have to defend against Bournemouth in the second half very much at all. All we got to see them do was ping the balls forward towards for our attacks to try and get those 3 goals back. And so it was a massive risk, a calculated risk. It figured itself out in the end. But to play those 3 and Sessegnon on the right, for me, was a little bit too much experimentation if we knew we were going to be under the cosh in the first half, if that was a deliberate tactic, which once again, I'm still not convinced it necessarily is entirely a deliberate tactic. I think it's a little bit like 50-50, a little bit of the intention is to preserve energy, but not to do it the way that we do it, not to sit so deep, I don't believe, but we'll have to keep an eye on it and figure it out together. And then the second goal comes from Pierre Højbjerg, who, look, absolutely fantastic. Last kick of the game. Come of the hour, come of the man. He is Captain Fantastic, or he should be Captain Fantastic for me. I absolutely adore the guy. And what's interesting is when Harry Kane found him in the last minute, Harry Kane didn't even really move forward with him. Whether that's because Harry Kane's exhausted at that stage of the game and just had no more energy in the tank, or whether it's because he presumed that Højbjerg was just going to run it down and wind down the clock. In any event, Højbjerg decided, nope. Today, I choose 3 points. I choose top of the table, and absolutely delivered a belter of a shot and broke Marseille's hearts in the moment, in the last kick of the game. I thought he was fantastic again, and I thought banter was fantastic in the second half. In the first half, I thought Højbjerg was basically anonymous. I said this to Dave and Jacket in the game. I was like, I can't remember them touching the ball more than 4 or 5 times. But look, by hook or by crook, we got there. And I think it's time to celebrate. At the time, last night, I don't think I did. I think I probably came across quite, miserly and quite frustrated and maybe angry. And I was. But having slept on it, I feel like there's so many reasons to be cheerful. To be unhappy with the performance in the first half means you have to be happy with the performance in the second half. You can't have it both ways. But football is a 90-minute game, and Tottenham need to figure out a way to have consistent approaches that are, based on something other than protection and then going after it, regathering, recapturing. It's all too emotional for me. But I guess this is what we tried to be in the Champions League for, right? Nights like those. Let me know your thoughts, guys. I will let you go. Yeah, 16 minutes is long enough of me ranting. One thing I wanted to say before I finish, guys, is fair play to Tottenham Hotspur for getting it done in a massively intimidating atmosphere without 3 of our most key players, and also losing another one. 4 of our top 5 players in the team right now are out injured, and Harry Kane is absolutely knackered. And for me, to go to Marseille in that atmosphere and do it without Conte being able to pull the strings tactically, I think is brilliant. Although, I say without him being able to pull the strings tactically, I don't know if you watched this and I don't want to get him in trouble. But tell me if you noticed the camera panning to Conte in the second half, and Conte saying something to the guy who was sat not next to him, but the guy who was sat next to him. And this guy was looking down between his legs with his hands and arms in front of him, looking incredibly like he was texting someone. And then at one point Conte says something, and the guy looks up from down here like this, looks up as if to say, what was that? And then Conte says it again, and then the guy puts his head back down between his legs and starts texting, or starts doing something. I'm not saying that there's a conspiracy here, but, first of all, was it walkie-talkies with Mourinho? I'm pretty sure that Conte was getting his messages across to somebody. And whatever, as I say, by hook or by crook. Let me know if you noticed that. Let me know what your thoughts on the game were, guys. Are you walking away from this with absolute emotion of joy or frustration or a bit of both? Are you worried that if we do something like that against a Benfica or I don't know, whoever, right? I'm not sure who we can get yet. We'll have to figure out all those names this evening after tonight's games. But if we play like the way we did in the first half against the better team, if we play like the way we did in the first half against Liverpool, we could be 3-0 down at half-time, and then the game is over. For me, I'm staying positive. Last night I wasn't. Last night I was probably more frustrated and angry than I was happy. And that, I think, is probably the bad way to approach it. But we've got to figure it out. I don't know why it's necessary to play the way we do against teams like Marseille, who are just rubbish anyway. But it is what it is. Guys, let me know your thoughts. Like, share and subscribe. And as always, guys, bye-bye.